Hello, welcome to the delicious recipe here on UPRN. If you're watching out there on this Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, you can be checking us out on YouTube on UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. You can also be checking us out on UFO Paranormal Radio. UFO Paranormal Radio, it's done twice. There's also on the delicious recipe on Facebook, Joe Montaldo, the UPRN site. We're also streaming on iCloud, SoundCloud, or what is it, Spreaker, iHeart, iRadio, all the other places that podcasts are played. Today's episode I called Tofurkey and Cricket Gravy, and I have on there tonight Lorilei from the Angel Rocks. Say hello, Lorilei.
Hello, Lorilei. I'll tell people about me. I'm Lorilei Puff, and I'm Dell's other half. We talk about his show often with my show, The Angel Rock, here on UFO Paranormal Radio, or otherwise known as United Public Radio Network here on 105.3 out of New Orleans, Louisiana. And you are right, we are carried wherever podcasts or talk radio are carried. My show's on Monday nights. What time is it? 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for having me.
And I want to just shout out to Hey You and Katie Pot back there for watching the ones and twos and taking care of all the technicals that that are being taken care on this end anyway. So
if people even know who Hey You is.
Yeah. Hey You and Katie Pot. So
okay.
So anyways, we had a Thanksgiving already up here in Canada, and Thanksgiving is next week in the States, next Thursday, which I'll be doing a show there next Thursday because we've already done that. And I've been noticing on the news cycles and on other things there about this, and this was also talked about the WEF and this whole going green and 2030 stuff, and about bringing in the part of eliminating animal products and that, and going to this insect type plant-based food to get your protein from. And that's why I call this one Tofurkey. And I looked at this stuff, and I've actually looked at a lot of different parts of this argument about eliminating animal products and going to this part of eating bugs. And it's this sort of this, I don't know how you would want to say it. It's almost like this sort of this, I don't want to use the word cult, but it is almost like a cult of nutrition there. And it almost goes to the part, almost like how the green energy people are. And this sort of unwavering or sort of blindness looking at it, that this is so much better.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been mentioned many times on this show and on other shows too as well, is the world cannot support itself on these ideas for that they have there, and plus the nutritional effect of eating bugs that usually eat the byproducts or the end products of things.
I got lots to add to this. I'm just waiting until there's a break in the conversation about this bug thing.
I'm just putting a whole bunch of little points out there, and like we do here on the delicious recipe, this is for entertainment. There's some dark sarcasm there, but it's a lot of just information. We throw it all in the pot, and maybe there's an ingredient that you find out of there. And I always say, do your own research, check it out from many sources, and look at it. Maybe there's an ingredient in there that you might find helpful for you, that gets you go on your own path of cooking your own meal or cooking your own thoughts. But that's how it goes there. Okay, let's hear what you have to say there, Lord.
Well, besides being an intuitive medium and energy healer and all that kind of stuff, I'm also a registered nurse. And I have done some research on this bug stuff. First of all, simplest is always easy. If you're meant to be eating bugs, we would have been eating bugs. Second of all, and people, I know you've said this many times on this show, Del, I say it on mine, and I always say this to people, I know you do too. If anything even tweaks any interest within yourself, please go research this yourself. You don't have to trust us. Like, use various different sources, take a look, and you will see that we have done a research. We're not always right. I mean, it's just, like you said, opinions sometimes, and we do try to back it up with some research. But the reason I say this is they've been showing very quietly that I think it's over 70% of human beings are allergic to, and please forgive me, we didn't know we were going to be talking about this specifically. It's a byproduct of bugs, and I believe what it is, it's almost a dust when the shells are ground up because bugs aren't clean. They trod through their feces and what have you. So it's the powder that comes from that byproduct. And human beings are 70% very allergic to this product that results from grinding up bugs and putting them in our food. And I notice what they always do. They start with the young people, like here in Canada. There's been some videos that have been put out, children in middle school, teachers passing out various types of salt and vinegar crickets and barbecue crickets and all these different, what you would normally call potato chips or crisps, depending if you're over in the UK, to get kids to normalize it. I also saw that this year at the Calgary Stampede, which is a big thing out west in Alberta every summer, they had 2 food booths approved by their health unit to serve actual bugs with their food. They're trying to normalize it, just like the energy stuff. Yet when you look into that and you look into this green energy and electrical cars, there is no savings in any way, shape, or form when it comes to exactly what they're trying to do, go green. But, people just watch mainstream media. People are busy, they only got a few minutes. So if you can, take a look at this. When you break this down, you start looking at this. Never mind, where are these batteries going to go? I know that's not where the show was going, but my whole point is the stuff that's being put out there. We need to really dig deeper than what we're being fed with a spoon from, let's say, media. We'll put it that way.
Right. It is. I found this interesting as I was playing around on Netflix. There's a whether this is new or not. I found it as new. They have interactive Netflix now, where you can use your little remote and you can play games along on the screen with it as well. This is not a new technology or that, but they had this one. I tried this out a couple nights ago, and it was this Bear Grylls one there, and you play it sort of like an interactive game where you choose option A or B, and then the story follows that sort of path.
Mm-hmm.
It's and he was going through there, and it's about surviving in the wilderness or going to find somebody there, and he was talking about eating the byproduct of the scat out of bears, and
Oh,
right the seeds, the unprocessed seeds that are in there, or eating
we
uh,
should tell people what scat is. Some people may not know. It's the feces of
right, and
bears.
so yeah, so the bears eat berries and stuff like that, and then or different sort of types of food, and
And what
as
they don't use or is undigestible, this is what he's talking about, picking out of their poop,
right,
basically. Hmm.
it reminds me of that what was that movie with Jack Nicholson and with Morgan Freeman, where they get to the end and then he goes, "Oh, this is the best coffee in the world. It's
Oh, okay.
Cappy Luwak."
Yeah, I
And
forget what the name of that was. That was a good movie. I forgot about that movie.
yeah, it was called The Bucket List.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
yeah, and he's like this, and then Morgan Freeman's character later on, he goes, she tells him, says, oh, "Okay, this is like $1,000 a cup for a cup of coffee, and this is like the best coffee in the world." And what it was is that this one type of
Cat.
cat, right, a wild cat. I can't remember what it was. I guess it's a luwak cat or cappy luwak or something, whatever the cat is. It eats these coffee berries off this one certain tree, and the natives people there, I think it's in Africa or something like that. Uh, they go in. The cat mostly stays in the trees and eats these coffee beans, and it eats them and it digests them, but it can't process the seeds. And then through its scat, uh, it's down the end. The native people, they go and collect it all. Then they go and wash the seeds down, and then they roast the seeds and sell the stuff. And because there's not that many, I think of why it's so expensive. Because usually anything that's expensive is because it comes into this low amount of yield. It takes so
Scarcity.
long. Right, right. So
Scarcity.
that's what rises prices up. Right. It's like the same thing with caviar, with different types of caviar. And it goes with many different things that people want to purchase is scarcity, yes, and a lot of things that are very expensive is through somebody makes that determination. Like it's just like art; it's very subjective, right? But the thing is, so but he, anyways, I'm rambling on here, but the part was is that the Morgan Freeman character goes like this, and he starts laughing at it, and he says, "Yeah," it says, "I don't want to have this," and he brings him the information. It says, "This is what you've been drinking the whole time, is the undigested seeds
Cat
of this
poop.
cat poop." Right. So, but that goes into this whole part with this. Goes into this interesting part with this Bear Grylls interactive. I think it's Man versus Wild plus You or something. It's on Netflix, anyways, and you go through this part, and he goes and says, well, I can eat the seeds out of this, out of the bear scat, clean them up, or eat these little buds off of this tree, right? And this goes in this whole part with the amount of bugs you would have to do to get, anyways, to create the same amount of protein that you would get off of a steak or a chicken breast or a pork chop or something like that. It's it's like a pound of lead and a pound of feathers, right? One is so small
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
one is so large, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the interesting part out of it. So when you pick the wrong thing, you he doesn't get to go on because he usually gets sick and he's done, and there's no survival. He doesn't get rescued, and he even explains there is that uh, eating things out of certain areas and that is that your body is not used to it. Your body can't handle this thing. It says like, and it does teaches a little bit about survival on that, but like there's another part that was on there was with these frogs' eggs, or spend the time and spear a fish. Well, one's going to take a lot amount of time, but this other stuff is so simple; it's right here. But the thing is, though, the other part is that these the frog's eggs that he finds in the pond there, they can carry a lot of pathogens and stuff like that. So eating that, your body cannot handle this, right? And it's not it's like that, and it's the same thing that goes with these bugs. These bugs, no, it doesn't matter how much you want to clean them up, as you're saying there. The outer shell, outer wing stuff, the there's a word for it. It starts with a C. Anyways, it's not carcass, but they call it something else. Anyways, the dust, the byproduct that's out of there is something that is very detrimental to our bodies, and it's the processing thing. Whereas this narrative is brought on there is that cow farts are destroying the ozone layer. This is the way that this is the way that that propaganda goes through there. And the people I've talked about this many times about Joseph Goebbels and Edward Bernays with the part about propaganda. And it's that
One
if you
thing I
tell,
want to jump in here and say
okay,
quickly first is
sorry,
that, again, it's okay. If we were meant to be eating bugs, we would be. Second of all, and how many times have we seen this throughout history? I believe that the earth is in balance, okay? We have the circle of life, if you'll call it, whatever you will. And I wrote this down when you were talking. Every time human beings mess with human nature, it's a disaster because everything is in perfect balance. Look at the cane toads. We've seen Mr. Gates release genetically engineered mosquitoes to God knows what the heck's going to happen with that. And those are just two examples. There are copious examples of people that think they're so genius, they're going to fix one problem, but they don't realize by thinking they're fixing one problem, they've created 100 more because we do not know, I
mm-hmm.
think, the way that Mother Nature does, if you will.
Right. That's a good point because Mother Nature always self corrects itself. And yeah, you brought up a good point there. I've talked about this many times about human beings messing with nature, and the whole part about well, Australia is a good part. This has happened in many other places too as well. Is you can look at the pig population too in you know how to get that rid of that, eh?
I'm getting rid of it right now.
Yeah,
No way.
yeah. So the thing is, though, is that when you introduce new things into a new environment, and ends up being is that it messes with that environment that's there. And you're right. You see this throughout history when the Europeans came over and they mixed with the South Americans there. They brought in pathogens with them that ended up devastating the native cultures that were there already. They brought over uh, animals. There's a lot of places where they brought in species into places, not just plants, but also they brought in pest control to get rid of the pests that are there. When you bring in plants into a into an environment, there is nothing that sort of keeps that thing in control. We have here, even in Canada, with we have Asian longhorn beetles. We have purple loosestrife, which is a flowering weed-like flower. It grows along all the highways and stuff like that, and it kills off the native plants. And there's not anything that really eats it, right,
Hmm.
or that destroys it. And you have there's so many different things that have happened. And I'll let you go into here for a bit because
Well, no,
because
but
I'm going to keep on rambling.
my whole point, what I'm trying to say here is, again, we've got those that have money, we'll call it that. WEF, for example, and those involved with that have decided this is what we're doing, right? And this big magical number, Agenda 2030. You'll own nothing, you'll be happy about it, and go on and on and on. But my point is, now they've decided about this. I don't know if we can say it or not, but I'll say it, global warming and this new green energy deals and what have you. But when you really dig deep and you start looking at these issues, supposed issues. And believe me, I bought it. I bought it about global warming because we were raised on this. There was a hole in the ozone layer. There was all this stuff. But when you start actually taking the time and looking and doing the research, and there is science going on to prove that these things aren't happening, or the fact that there's going to be virtually minimal energy savings with these electrical cars. And eventually, I think I was just watching a program, you have to own one for about 10 to 12 years before you even start to even it out. But then at the end of the life of the car, what happens to the battery? What do you do with it? How do you get rid of it? How much energy are you saving? That's the point. And because, people are busy, and we've often said this, both of us on the show and off air, on air, is that unless it's in your bubble, your little circle of life, you don't think about it because there's just too much to consider and look at. I get that. And I think most people do that try to have sort of more of a global view. But when we're being spoon fed certain things, we have to step back, I think, and ask why. Like, I've said this to you many times on air and off air. I've never understood why people think they need a leader to follow. And it doesn't matter whether you see something like we've seen, supposed TV shows with plane crashes. Somebody always steps up and takes the lead position, and everybody follows. We all have brains. We can all think. No, I'm not saying that everybody has to go off in separate directions and my idea is better than yours. But the point is I think we have to start thinking for ourselves and stepping back and asking why, instead of believing whomever that may be that we put up on a pedestal that we consider now our new mommy and daddy, because we do. And whether that may be the leaders of our countries, wherever it is, our new mommy and daddy, we got to follow what they say. We have brains. We're capable of looking and making decisions for ourselves, including cooperating and working together. But I don't think we need to have somebody telling us what to do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. There was a if you look back into history, there was a thing that was called back in in the past century. It was called the Great American Dust Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
and what ended up happening with that, and this is because the information wasn't out there, but they've gone and taken crops and they went monoculture, where they're only just growing one crop. Right, this is the
Mm-hmm.
way of farming that was going there. So they cleared out large swaths of land and farmed strictly corn. And this comes into this whole part about rotation. They didn't even think about this. They just grew that, and they didn't know by planting just one variety of plant over an area, the ground doesn't have time to regenerate, reinvigorate, to produce like the cycle of life for plants, for the soil. Like there's so many different things that are needed, uh, and other things that are needed in there, that this plant helps this plant, that helps this bug, that helps this bird, that helps this animal.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is all intertwined.
It's
But
in
when you
balance.
right, and that's the way that sort of things. It's a lot of more of this is coming out here. But when you're looking at even let's say bugs, the amount of bugs that you would need to do to, like I said, the 1 pound of lead versus the 1 pound of feathers, the size and the impact to do that for a population. We'll just use the USA as for a number 330 million people. The amount of production that be needed to use for that is astronomical. You don't even think you would even have that amount that would be produced to give you the amount of nutritional protein that you would need. And goes into this whole part about using synthetic foods, chemical foods instead of natural foods. Like
I was
our
thinking
bodies,
Soylent Green. What's that going to be
yeah,
the next thing now? Like
yeah,
the movie Soylent with
yeah,
Soylent Green in it, because we don't have enough bugs to feed the world now. So, well, we've got bodies that people aren't living anymore. So let's make some Soylent Green and feed people that next. They could see it.
yeah. That was also the part of the topic there in Logan's Run as well, where they
Mm-hmm.
did the same thing at the age of 30. You're expired and you went off to the next world, but all they did was they just recycled your body and fed it to the
The
ones that are
masses.
the masses that were coming up, right? But
Mm-hmm.
this goes into this whole part with even with green energy. I saw well, this has been on the news period in California, as they with people with electric vehicles, they've been telling them to not charge during certain times because the power, the infrastructure isn't even there to produce enough power that would be able to charge all these vehicles. And this goes into a part with shipping and receiving, importing, exporting. These huge tanker trucks or tankers that bring over these shipping containers across the oceans, the supply chain that. How are these things going to run on wind power and solar panels to push these multi-100 million ton ships across the ocean to deliver goods? Not a lot of thought when you get these radical
Thinkers.
thinkers out there, people that are so pro green and anti anything else. They don't think of the whole impact. It's all good if you do it yourself, the one person, but a lot of these people that are these excuse me, a lot of people that are activists don't even do 1/10 of what they're proposing. They want everybody else to do, and this goes a long way when someone's saying, "Hey, this is what we should have," tofurkey. I can't even say the word because it almost makes me want to
Gag.
gag. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but this is what we're cooking. This is what it is. This is what we're eating. But then they don't. This is what everybody should eat because eating meat is murder, right? And they do that. I've watched so many videos on this, but they don't look at it. They don't do other things. They allow other things to happen. They use their cell phone. They use this. They don't know about mining
Wear
and
leather.
everything else. Or, yeah, they get on the bus. Yeah, leather or whatever. I just find it very interesting. This sort of very narrowed thing. Like if Ocasio Cortez, this green energy bill, she doesn't want to go. Wants everybody to go electric vehicles. Why is she taking planes and driving gas vehicles and doing all this stuff? It's
Hey,
hey there,
Zachman.
Zach. Good to see you there. But it's the people that say usually don't do,
Yeah,
but they
do
want.
as I say, not as I do. And
Yeah.
that's the problem. And, like I said, people are busy and, right? And let's face it, we kind of follow what we've been raised in unless we consciously make the decision that we're going to live our lives differently, right? We
Mm-hmm.
do what we know. So people years ago, and I remember this growing up as a little child, Walter Cronkite. Everybody watched Walter Cronkite. He was the truth. He was the news. Now, so people saw their parents watch it and their grandparents and what have you. So now you come home from a busy day, you want to know what's going on in the world, or you figure so you turn on the news, right? And people are busy. I'm not faulting anybody for that, but I think that in this day and age and in the age of information that we have more responsibility to ourselves and our future to start digging deeper with things that resonate with us. Or, for example, now I'm just going to put a question out there, I'm not telling people what to do. When you see that something's misinformation over and over and over, have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why is this misinformation and why does social media get to decide what is misinformation and what isn't? Then people are going to say, well, the fact checkers. I encourage you to really take a look at the fact checkers. Some of the names are out there, some of the organizations, and see where these people's backgrounds come from. I think you will be very surprised with this so-called fact checking. And to me, I don't want somebody telling me what I can, I mean, I'm not looking up something illegal. I'm not trying to, hurt somebody or create a crime or commit a crime or anything like that. But I think at 57 years of age, and I'm not bragging, but I have a university background. I can read, I can do all these things that I can decide for myself what I believe is information or not misinformation. I have a healthcare background, for example. I could take a look at that. Now, say it was about engineering or something. No, I don't have an engineering background, but I know enough people to have a discussion with. Or, like, you've got a bit of an engineering background. But my whole point is, rather than sitting on a computer or turning on a device, we start connecting with human beings and start having conversations and hearing each other. Maybe we don't agree. We agree to disagree, but we hear each other. And I think we're losing that art.
Yeah, well, that's the big part that why this Elon Musk taking over Twitter has got the the
The
other
left.
side in such an uproar, right? And this was actually sort of it was actually mentioned on a bunch of alternative news sites because, like I say, like I watch from a whole variety from
Mm-hmm.
both sides, and you get the picture, and then I make my own decision out of that from all the information that I got and the own research that I got, and they're all in an uproar about this. This Elon Musk taking over there, and he's going and he's punching back at people. Excuse me. But
Why don't you go grab a drink?
I got some tea here.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
not what has happened there is that like you say the way that the news was done there was point and counterpoint
Mm-hmm.
that sort of left the news has left the building now. It's
Mm-hmm.
become an entertainment center. It's become a one-sided, one thought opinion post where people push their one-sided agenda, their one thought, or whoever owns the company. I think like in the what's in the states there now. There's one only three different billionaires that would own most of the mass media that goes out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when other counterpoints come in, they push against that because they don't want that narrative to come in there. Even with this whole part with looking at the states there with the Republicans taking over the House, they got their 218 seats, and this is going to be sort of an interesting thing that Nancy Pelosi is no longer uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Running in for re-election.
right. Well, she's no longer the head of the House,
Well,
right?
she put that out. That was a news story that came out, and I've seen it numerous times today. She's no longer seeking re-election either in 2024.
Well, she's done anyways. But
Mm-hmm.
this will be sort of an interesting thing to come on there because this is sort of going a little bit off topic. But now that the House is Republican being run majority, they now have the way to start investigations into everything that was done against them, and this is getting warrants, subpoenas, and to investigate this stuff, and this can become public, right? And this all has been suppressed for such a long time, going into the Hillary emails, RussiaGate, going into just a lot of shady deals throughout the states, and there's a lot of them. And whether you want to agree or disagree about this, but there has been some really largely contested, weird or suspicious activity that sort of happened there. How does somebody that makes $400,000 a year have a $240 million bank account? Right? There's got to be some sort of when you look into the finances and you're making rules that is being pushed through the House, the Senate, and then put into law. That all of a sudden that your husband buys all these shares in this certain type of company, right? Where you go and profit from it. It's really, really interesting. And so let's see what Zach here has to say.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Nancy won't be running for re-election. More time for her to keep an eye on her husband so he doesn't bring male prostitutes with hammers to their house again. Yeah, that's true.
We were talking about that off air. Well, we might. I'm going to say it. We were talking about it. We said, and we've said it all along, and I'm sure you know it too, Zach. I think there's going to be a lot more coming out about that little scenario now with the changing of the guard. But the point is, I think this was planned all along. I really do.
Hmm.
If over what we've gone through the last couple of years, I'll spell it out so we don't flag anything, but EVENT 101 in October 2019. Take a look at that. That's almost a game plan for what we went through, almost word for word. Now, going forward, you look at something called S's and Sam, P is and Peter, AR, S's and Sam, 2025 to 2028. Again, that is supposed to be a mock scenario. I encourage you, it's not that hard to find that document. Take a look at that. Let's take a look and see, because I think those dates should have really been 2020 to 2023. So I don't know. I'm going to play conspiracy theorist here, but I have a feeling that this was planned all along for exactly what's going to be happening, exactly what's going to be coming out with these subpoenas, with all of this stuff. It's going to be an interesting couple of years. Let's put it that way.
Yep. And like I'm not saying either side there in the left or the right is right. I think the far extremes is the big problem there. But it's gonna be an interest. You're right. It's gonna be sort of interesting what sort of information comes out. And you thought before when the last president there, 45, was in, that there was all this talk about going after these people, cleaning the swamp, and there was some stuff that was done, and there was people that sort of left positions and left and ran, but not anything was done really. Like just people just sort of changed positions from one place to another. Like the what was it there? What the it's sort of interesting. Like I say all the time there, what happens in the States affects here in Canada.
It
And
absolutely does. Yeah.
right, like the U.S. is one of Canada's largest trading partners, and so
Well, you
and
were
we're
the one that made this point. Like, what did you say? Most Canadians live within about a 200 mile radius of the American border.
yeah,
Didn't you? Yeah.
yeah,
Was
yep.
it
That's
200 or 100?
I think it's 150 miles or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we
200
live
kilometers.
about 35, 40 minutes away from the Minnesota border. So, but
Yeah.
again, we aren't all of Canada. But my point is, when you look at the most populous areas, and you've talked about this on your show as well, most Canadians live pretty close to the American border.
Right. Well, that's because the further you get north up in here in Canada,
It's cold.
yeah. Well, it's not that it's cold; it's that the winters are longer and there's less resources up there because the Trans Canada Highway is within about 150 miles of the U.S. border that runs right across from coast to coast, from the
Mm-hmm.
Atlantic to the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's where most of everything. You look at how the migration of Europeans came across. They came across the Atlantic. They started over there, the New York area, the Maritimes, and that, and then they brushed across and went west. And as they
Mm-hmm.
went across, they moved that direction. And then now you're seeing is that in the States you have a large amount of immigrants. They found it's easier to and cheaper to get in through the south border because
That's a
and
whole different show.
yeah, and yeah, that's another interesting one there. The immigration, and I don't know
Our
this.
borders are open too, that most Canadians aren't aware of, but they are too. So,
Yeah, I
mhm.
actually was watching the Jimmy Dore there, and he was going and he was showing a part with Chuck Schumer, and I think it was his speech he was giving out there about 2009 about how important it was to remove immigrants from the country to get illegal immigrants out that are not here, to have strong borders, to protect, to make sure that everybody that's coming into this country will benefit the U.S. USA and betterment,
Alzheimer's is a convenient thing, isn't it? How many years later?
right? And then now he's saying the exact opposite is that we
Mhm.
need more into here. So whether it's Open Society Foundation, George Soros manipulation into their other nefarious billionaire. The word philanthropist, I think that's sort of just tacked on there because people don't actually know what the word means, anyways. Uh, but it means something totally different, and it's self-servant to them. Government is self-servant to itself. The people that are in there, see, like I said, small town politics is usually for the betterment of your area and that to make it better. As it gets bigger, it goes into the self-service of yourself and your own family and your own interests. And it's not of the interest. They don't listen anymore to
Yeah, but what I
what the
keep
people are saying.
encouraging people is, and again, these are our opinions. I made that clear at the beginning, but I think that the only way we're going to see an effect change is, again, communication, hearing each other, agreeing to disagree, but also starting on a local level. I think we're going to have to start locally, because if you look at the whole system, I really believe that we need to revamp everything. We really do. And to try and tackle it, say, from a federal perspective, it's just too big of an animal, if you will. It's almost like, and in this day and age, and I'm going to go with Mr. JT and the Sunshine Band's half brother, Kyle, that was out there, was about a year ago. He had a really good point that really stuck with me, some of the interviews he was doing. And he said, in this day and age, there is no need for us to have to elect one individual to go to a building somewhere that's been designated the center of our countries and be our voice. We have the internet here. We could very well, change up that system. And we just haven't kept up, I think, with the technology. They want to use
Mhm.
it in certain places, but if we're going to use it, let's use it, right?
Yeah, that's true in a way, but I also think that that we've seen this in elections and how things could be manipulated. I don't think we have the tried and true uh, parts to do referendums and to get the actual voice of the people for out there yet. That it
No,
could
and I
be.
agree with you. But my point, what he was trying to say was, and he didn't have an absolute laid out plan of what the solution is, but I think he had a point, is what I'm trying to say, that we're with an antique situation here, that when we didn't have the internet hundreds of years ago, and we're still sticking with the same system.
Mhm.
And there's too many opportunities, in my opinion, for somebody to be self-serving when we're dealing, like you said, on a federal level, and going in behind closed doors. And we get to see some things, but we don't get to see everything that goes on there. And I don't know, I just really have always said, I think that we need to start locally. I think that, infrastructure, education, healthcare, I could go on and on. It all needs a reform.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is just sort of another part here. I'm just going to try and see if I can find this.
I'll read Zach's comment while you're looking at it.
Yeah.
It says,
Okay.
one of the border towns 2 hours from me had a problem with waves of immigrants that they couldn't house, but the federal government told them they had to. Oh yeah, or they shipped them just. Oh God, like I said, we could do a whole show on that one, Zach. Right?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. Uh, there's one of the cryptos there. Did you see this story? That oh geez, his name was something Freed. I have
Mm-mm.
it. I have it saved there. Anyways, it's with cryptocurrency, and he was a MIT smart mathematician. I'm going to keep on looking down here. I'll keep on sort of saying what it is here, and what he was sort of doing there was trying to take over the crypto game, FTX scam. uh, and his name was I found it here, FTX, and he created a company that was like a hedge fund company that was uh, buying and sharing crypto coin, and he got a lot of money in there. He went from like being whatever, just this guy, up to being like almost a $38 billion or a very large company with all this cryptocurrency, and then he was trying to take over. I think it was BNB or BNC, by Science or something like that. This other cryptocurrency, and he was giving a lot of money to the Democratic Party, to like lots of money, and the money was sort of going from there, going to uh, another place, to then going to the Biden campaign, the DNC, then going to Ukraine, being shuffled around there, and then going back into his pocket. Basically, what he's doing, he was inflating cryptocurrency, and he was lobbying to him to be the regulatory thing, the main one out of there. and they set up in the Bahamas, and it was a bunch of people that never worked in business. They were just math, and he was just sort of gaming the system,
Hmm.
and that's where crypto went down. What was his name there?
The problem is, right, we're seeing this. The one thing I will say, over
Sam. Oh,
especially,
sorry. Here's his name. Sam Bankman-Fried.
no
It's
idea.
that FTX scandal, and it's like one of the biggest ones there that's going out there. And there was a lot of money. A lot of people lost money. Actually, the Ontario nurses or Ontario teachers found
That are
put their union put a large part of their pension money into this thing there, and they lost a
that
huge amount of money.
wasn't that nice that they did that.
Right, and this isn't just a just say there was a lot of companies
Yeah,
that have
okay, so let's just stop there for a sec. Whose harebrained idea was that to take your teacher's pension, which
yeah.
I know that your employer pays for part here in Canada and then you pay for part. So they took that money and invested it. I will bet you dollars to donuts. They never asked the union members, hey, do you think we should invest in this? They just went ahead and did it. And
Hmm.
that's the point. That's where I was going when you brought up his name. Is the one good thing about the last year and a half, a lot of truth seems to be coming to the surface, which it always does, but it's a conglomeration lately in every aspect of life, almost like what I can't remember her name, the one that said was an android. We're waiting for her sentencing with the medical device she lied about and got billions and billions of
Yep.
dollars.
Oh
What's
yeah,
her name
that's
again?
yeah. Her name is Elizabeth Holmes, and
Yeah.
it's a Ethereum.
Hmm.
It was like almost like Thanos, but Ethereum. And what she did, actually, her sentencing is supposed to come up. She's been in under house arrest for the past 18 months. What she did was she was this is an interesting story too because this is a $9 billion worth
Cam.
company and she was like she's the one is supposed to be one of the youngest female billionaires, and she emulated Steve Jobs. She would dress like him, do his mannerisms, like
Lower her
wore
voice.
all black, lower her voice, and look down at you like this.
I said
She,
to you, what were my
yeah,
words to you off air? I actually said to him, is she an android? Like she doesn't
yeah,
blink. There's no emotion there. And then she had this odd way of standing and then kind of like looking down at you. And then you noticed it in an interview clip where the interviewer is down here on the chair, and the chair you can see is actually raised up to make her look bigger.
yeah.
Hmm.
But people out there listening, there's two ones I want you to look. There's the Elizabeth Hone, the Therium scandal.
It
That's
sounds like Thanos, though. Are you sure it's
or,
Therium?
uh,
It's Theranos or something. It sounded very much
Theranos.
like that. It
It,
sounded like Thanos
if
to me.
you just look up Elizabeth Holmes, you'll get she's
Mhm.
in the big part of the news because her sentencing is supposedly she's been charged already for fraud, 3 counts of fraud, and a lot of people invest like Warren Buffett, the U.S. What it was is I'll tell you simply, really, very quickly there. What this was is that it was going to eliminate people going in to go and give blood. You would just go into your local pharmacy store, CVS or Walgreens or whatever you get your prescriptions. You would go and you'd stick your finger in this machine, and it would take a little drop of blood, and then this little machine would take in and it would go and look for different ailments you would have in your blood. Like it would find out if you have cancer or not, or if you have what disease you
Mm.
had, and would instantly it eliminates labs basically. And what she was doing, she was manipulating the data, she was faking results and doing this, and still going out there and saying, "We're at this part there. We almost got the machine." And like the U.S. military was going to put a lot of money in to get this stuff. CVS's, Walgreens, just in the states alone, and this was all on a lie. And she was meeting like with billionaires that were giving her money. Uh,
Jared Leto, we've seen a picture.
oh
Was there
yeah,
some royalty? There was huge
yep,
names that she was hobnobbing with.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And this almost goes into this whole part. Like even this, the people that play around with the rest of the population. There, like you have the Epstein's and the Ghislaine Maxwell's. You have the this person Elizabeth Holmes. You have this guy here, SPF. What the hell? What's his
I have
name
no
there?
idea what you're saying because we watched a bunch of conspiracies. I thought that's what we were talking about tonight. We went in a
Right.
different direction.
Okay. anyways, with this FTX disaster, the man lost $16 billion of money overnight. Basically, this cryptocurrency just
Was it
tanked.
the investments he lost as well as his own, or just his own
Yeah.
money?
Well, he created his own Bitcoin and he was selling it to his own company that was running this hedge fund. And
Yeah,
so
but if the Teachers Federation here in Canada put money into it, though, that's an investment. That's investment money. People invested in your product.
right, and you're not going to get that back. So
That's why I
this
was
money,
asking you, whose money did he lose besides just
he
his?
lost
Okay.
everybody. I said it wasn't just them. It was
Hmm.
there's
No, I
16 billion
knew
dollars gone.
that, but it wasn't
Anyways,
just his money. It wasn't
okay,
just
yeah,
his money. It was everybody's.
none of it was his money. So
Thank you.
anyways, there's two ones if you're out there listening to go check out. This is on YouTube. YouTube there. It's a Cold Fusion. That's the YouTube channel. It's about a 29-minute show thing there. This explains that the FTX disaster is deeper than you think. And then also Glenn Beck has one, the real story behind the FTX scandal, and it's just amazing. I got onto this whole Elizabeth Holmes one there because that's even crazier than that. But it's just amazing how these people and this manipulation is gone, and then the only person that pays is the person at the bottom of the totem pole, and that's the low person, the middle class worker that is basically being eliminated, and the poor people, they take the brunt out of it because everybody else, you pay more taxes, and the rich and the wealthy don't pay anything out of it. They just take it off and they get bailouts, government bailouts, and that. It's just some things to look at there besides this whole part about this push to go green and eat bugs.
Yes, eat bugs. Okay, I guess like you said, always, Del, is you throw all the ingredients in the pot, you stir them up, and people take out what feels right to them. But if any of this resonates with you, even if it kind of pushes a button for you, we weren't talking about these things to stir people up. It's just that things that we've come across in our own lives that we've taken a little deeper look at. And if any of it resonates with you, take a look for yourself. We always say you don't have to believe us. Do some research. Take a look. I think you're going to be surprised what you find.
Yes, because you're gonna look at it. There's what's being said in the mainstream media is because a lot of these people that these billionaires that are running these companies are involved in a lot of these shady deals and put investment money in there, and they don't want the people to know who they're in bed with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's who's controlling the narrative. You're not going to go if you're at a. This is why mainstream media news really doesn't work anymore, is because the people that are running these companies don't want any negative things that is said about their company on their platform, on their news. You're not going to talk about it. See, news was always supposed to be the part. I know I found this that was sort of interesting. News, right? North, east, west, south, right? Globally, like all directions. You'd have a this direction that going point counterpoint, and that's how it's supposed to be, unbiased. Usually, I always thought that news people weren't even supposed to have a political affiliation with anything, right? They're supposed to be. That's the way that you would do it. You don't,
Neutral.
right? And that's why a lot of these mainstream media news things have gone to entertainment, packaging, opinion pieces, like stuff like this, right? And like I say for here, I don't tell you what to think. Just throw in ingredients in the pot. Maybe you find something that's going to work for you, and that'll be. You just take it from there. And I always say, learn from a lot of sources. But there's a lot of things that are going on there, and you have to. When you say, "Well, I'm not into politics. I don't care about it." Well, do you buy groceries? Do you put fuel in your car? Does the government have rolling brownouts in your pipe where you don't have any electricity or your internet shut off because we can't the supply and demand the infrastructure that's there for electricity can't meet it? How are you going to run these vehicles that only have a certain distance? How are you going to how's the supply chain going to work in the
How are you
global
going to
environment?
afford them?
Right. And like you saw what happened there back when that in the Suez Canal when that large tanker ship went sort of and blocked off it there for what was it, almost like 5 to 7 days. It actually put the supply chain back almost about 18 months. They're
Mm-hmm.
still playing catch up on things, and you're wondering why prices are rising and things are going up. It's they want to blame that it's on Russia and the Ukraine war. No, it's not. You fix your house first before you fix the house down the street. That's my always mentality. you make things better for yourself, your country, inside first. You start offering and giving away the
You
stuff from
have to
10.
fill up your own cup first in order to be able to pour for other people. And if you don't
Right.
keep filling your own cup, you're going to run dry.
That's correct. That's a good
Mhm.
way to put it there. Okay, Lorilei, tell them where they can find you.
You can
And
find, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, that's just it. Yeah, we have about a minute left here.
Okay, thank you for having me. You can find me on Monday nights here on United Public Radio Network on from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Angel Rock. I have new and exciting guests every week, and I also have two groups on Facebook, Paranormal University for all things paranormal, and the Angel Rock Tribe for many of the esoteric, spirituality type, power of positivity and the mind and what have you. Ever want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on facebook.com/the Angel Rock, whether that's a book, a reading, healing session, I do mentoring, or you got a guest idea or a suggestion or question. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. And I want to say thank you, Zach Man, for joining
Hey,
in
Zach.
there. Yep, you had a lot of nice, a lot of interesting things there to say, and so it was a pleasure. And next week, I'm moving to a new time. It's on the same day, but I'm going to 8 p.m. Eastern
8 to 9.
Standard Time. So I'm jumping up an hour. So
Mhm.
it'll be 8 till 9.
Just
So
before Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. So,
yep. So somebody else might be in there next week at this time. So just look for me an hour later, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I want to thank the people that were listening, and thank you very much there, hey you and Kitty Pot there for watching the stuff in the background there. And we'll see you all next week. Have a good night.
have a good one.